This pope breaks a 2,000-year tradition, and it's not random. Pope Francis is gone. The leader of over 1 billion Catholics has just passed. And the world is watching. History has been made for the first time in 2,000 years. A man born in the United States of America has been elected pope. His name? Leo XIV. But his birth name? Robert Prevost. He's from Chicago. America just stepped into a powerful role. And what comes next might shake the foundation of what we thought we knew. As he stepped onto the balcony of St. Peter's Basilica, he spoke these words: "Peace be with you." Could this moment be a sign? Could this be a step towards something called Babylon? Let's start with the facts. Pope Leo XIV, formerly Robert Prevost, is 69 years old. He's a missionary who spent most of his career in Peru ministering to the poor. He led the Order of St. Augustine, a group known for spiritual unity and simplicity. And most recently, he ran one of the most powerful offices in the Vatican, the office that decides who becomes bishop around the world. This wasn't a random choice. He came into the conclave with serious influence, and when the cardinals met, 135 of them in secret, they chose him. No cameras, no interviews, only white smoke rising from the Sistine Chapel. What happened behind those locked doors might shape the rest of history. And now, an American sits on the throne of St. Peter. Pope Leo XIV chose a name with serious history. The last major pope to use it was Leo XIII, who ruled from 1878 to 1903. Now, Leo XIV is stepping into that same legacy. Think about this. For the first time ever, a leader from America, a country often called the world's most powerful nation, is now in charge of the world's largest religious system, the Catholic Church. Could this merging of empire and church fulfill the final warning in Revelation? Is this the final merging of empire and religion that Revelation warned us about? This isn't just a footnote in history, it's a fusion of two empires, the spiritual and the political, the sacred and the strategic. Imagine this. For 2,000 years, the Catholic Church has picked 266 popes to lead millions of people around the world. But guess what? Not a single one was from the United States until 2025. Why did it take so long? Was America just not good enough? Or is there a secret reason nobody talks about? For 2,000 years, popes have been the leaders of the Catholic Church, guiding people's faith and even shaping world history. They live in Vatican City, a tiny country inside Rome, Italy, and their decisions can change lives across the globe. Let's start at the beginning. For the first 1,000 years, popes weren't even elected like they are today. Back then, leaders like emperors or kings often picked the pope, or the church chose someone powerful in Rome. Why Rome? Because it was the center of the world back then, the capital of the Roman Empire. The church grew strong there, and Peter himself was said to have died in Rome. Now, here's a mind-blowing fact. The American political empire didn't even exist as a country until 1776. That's only 250 years ago, but wait. Even after America became a country, something kept the U.S. out of the Pope race. What was it? Could it have been a problem with the people, the church, or maybe even politics? Keep listening, because this mystery is about to get wild. Okay, let's do some math. The Catholic Church has had 266 popes, but the United States has only been around for 250 years. That means only about 18 popes were chosen since America was born. And here's the kicker. Popes are almost always picked from a group called the College of Cardinals. These are important church leaders, and guess what? America didn't even have a cardinal until 1875. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, politics. The United States is a global superpower. It has a huge military, tons of money, and influence all over the world. But that's exactly why some cardinals didn't want an American pope. They worried that an American pope might mix U.S. politics with the church's mission. What if he pushed American ideas or got too cozy with the U.S. government? The church is supposed to be for everyone, not just one country. Think about it. When John F. Kennedy became the first Catholic U.S. president in 1960, some people worried he'd take orders from the Pope. Now imagine the opposite, an American Pope. Would people think he was taking orders from the U.S. president? It was a risk the church didn't want to take. This fear kept American cardinals out of the running for years, but something was brewing. Something that would shake up the Vatican forever. Can you feel the tension building? Let's see what happened next. Here's where the story gets emotional. In 2013, the church made history by picking Pope Francis, the first pope from South America. People were shocked. The Vatican was finally looking beyond Europe for its leaders. This was a huge moment. It showed the church was ready to embrace the whole world, not just Italy or Europe. But for Americans, it was bittersweet. On one hand, it was exciting to see the church open up. On the other hand, why not an American? The U.S. had millions of Catholics, great schools, and strong leaders. Yet, the Vatican still seemed to say, not yet. The church was becoming more global, and America was about to get its chance. Now, many are wondering, is the United States Babylon? One of its biggest mysteries is a woman called Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes and of the abominations of the earth. She's described as sitting on 7 hills, dressed in purple and scarlet, holding a golden cup full of evil. Revelation says this woman is a city that rules over the world's kings. She's rich, powerful, and leads people away from God. But who is she? For centuries, Christians have debated her identity. Is she a real city like Rome or New York, or is she a symbol of a false religion or corrupt system? The Bible doesn't give a clear answer, and that's what makes it so fascinating. Some say Babylon is Rome, home of the Catholic Church. Others say it's America, the world's biggest superpower. Now, with Pope Leo XIV, an American leading the church, the lines are blurring. Is this the moment Revelation warned about? Let's look at both sides, but brace yourself. This is about to get intense. For hundreds of years, many Christians, especially Protestants, have said Rome is the Babylon of Revelation. Why? Because Rome sits on 7 hills, just like the woman in Revelation 17. The Catholic Church, based in Rome, has also been a global power, guiding kings and nations for centuries. In the 1500s, leaders like Martin Luther called the Catholic Church the Babylon. They believed the church had lost its way, focusing on wealth and power instead of Jesus. They pointed to Revelation 17. Some Christians believe the United States is the Babylon of Revelation. Why? Because America is the world's greatest superpower, just like ancient Babylon was. It's a land of wealth, culture, and influence, but also pride and sin. Revelation 18 says, Babylon is a city that made all the nations drink the wine of her passionate immorality. Does that sound like America? Its movies, music, and ideas spread everywhere. People chase the American dream, leaving their homes for a better life. But the Bible warns that Babylon's wealth leads to corruption. In the Bible, cities are often shown as wrong places. The first mention of cities, which is essential, ties them to Lamech and the making of dangerous weapons. Cities draw in people, including those who do wrong, often encouraging bad behavior. Where there is less community and more hiding, sins and crimes grow. In this part of the Bible, greed and pride are the main sins discussed, and both are linked to loving money. You can't serve both God and money at the same time. Luke 16, verse 13. No servant can be the slave of two masters. Such a servant will hate one and love the other, or will be loyal to one and despise the other. You cannot serve both God and money. In a prosperous city, people can easily forget that God made everything in heaven and on earth. Sometimes people start to worship their skills and talents. Tall buildings often show off human pride and achievements, indicating arrogance. An excellent example is the Babel Tower, near the Euphrates River on the path between Asia, Africa, and Europe. Nimrod, a great hunter and warrior, built it. He believed that power means you are right, and only the most vital people survive. The tower was meant to be the tallest building ever made by humans. It was a way for people to show off and say, "Look at what we can do." They wanted to make a name for ourselves. The most significant danger to Jerusalem was Babylon. In the end, Nebuchadnezzar came and wrecked the holy city, including its temple, and took its riches. He sent the people away into exile for 70 years. God let this happen because the people had made Jerusalem just like any other city, not special anymore. An angel invites John to witness the judgment of this evil woman. Revelation 17, 1-2. Then one of the 7 angels who had the 7 bowls came and spoke with me, saying, "Come here. I will show you the judgment of the great prostitute who sits on many waters, with whom the kings of the earth committed acts of sexual immorality, and those who live on the earth became drunk with the wine of her sexual immorality." The unfortunate truth is that it will not end well for Babylon. We already read here of a judgment from God. This is not a small thing. It was always a great calamity for anyone, let alone any city, to come under God's judgment. The fate of Babylon will end just like the fate of Babel did. The great accomplishment of man will receive her due judgment. The name Babylon is vital in the Bible. It stands for religious unfaithfulness and corruption. To understand what Babylon means, we need to look at both the Bible and its history. Babylon represents a false religion that leads people away from worshiping God correctly, showing spiritual cheating and moral decay. This is shown in the book of Revelation, where Babylon is described as a mysterious woman having wrong relationships with the kings of the earth. This highlights the moral decline and corruption of societies caught up in false religions. Revelation 17, 3-6. And the angel carried me away in the spirit into a wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast that was entirely covered with blasphemous names, having 7 heads and 10 horns. The woman was dressed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold, precious stones, and pearls, and she was holding in her hand a gold cup full of the abominations and the filth of her sexual immorality. And on her forehead, a name was written, a mystery: Babylon the Great, the mother of prostitutes, false religions, heresies, and of the abominations of the earth. I saw that the woman was drunk with the blood of the saints, God's people, and with the blood of the witnesses of Jesus who were martyred. When I saw her, I wondered in amazement. Prosperity, showiness, and luxury can make us proud and greedy, but they can't protect us from God's punishment. The golden cup stands for the temptations and tricks used by this wicked Babylon to gain and keep her power and to lead others into her terrible ways. This place is known for its awful actions because it teaches people to worship false gods and do all kinds of evil. It is full of the blood of Jesus' followers and martyrs. She became drunk on it, enjoying it so much that she was never satisfied. It's shocking to think about how much Christian blood has been spilled by people who call themselves Christians. When we look at these prophecies, we see that these terrible events prove the gospel's truth. We should be careful not to be fooled by flashy, profitable, or trendy religions. Instead, let's stay away from the secrets of evil and focus on understanding the true meaning of godliness. By doing this, we can learn humility and thankfulness from Christ's example. The more we try to be like him, the less likely we will be tricked by false teachers. And he shouted with a mighty voice, saying, "Fallen, fallen, certainly to be destroyed, is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, a dungeon haunted by every unclean spirit, and a prison for every unclean and loathsome bird. For all the nations have drunk from the wine of the passion of her sexual immorality, and the kings and political leaders of the earth have committed immorality with her. And the merchants of the earth have become rich by the wealth and economic power of her sensuous luxury. Repay to her even as she has repaid others, and pay back to her double her torment in accordance with what she has done. In the cup of sin and suffering which she mix a double portion of perfect justice for her. To the degree that she glorified herself and reveled and gloated in her sensuality, living deliciously and luxuriously, to that same degree impose on her torment and anguish and mourning and grief. For in her heart she boasts, "I sit as a queen on a throne, and I am not a widow, and will never ever see mourning or experience grief." For this reason, in a single day, her plagues, afflictions, calamities will come, pestilence and mourning and famine, and she will be burned up with fire and completely consumed, for strong and powerful is the Lord God who judges her. Revelation 18:6-8. God has already decided that mystical Babylon will fall and be destroyed. Babylon's wickedness was very great. It had turned away from the true God, set up false idols, and led many people into spiritual wrongdoing. Babylon used its wealth and luxury to keep people interested and trapped. This spiritual merchandise, which many use to become rich through sinful ways, is a big problem. There is a clear warning for anyone who hopes for God's mercy. They must not only leave Babylon, but also help in its destruction. God might still have some people in Babylon, but they will be called out. Those who join in the sins of Babylon will face their punishments. And the kings and political leaders of the earth who committed immorality and lived luxuriously with her will weep and beat their chests in mourning over her when they see the smoke of her burning, standing a long way off in fear of her torment, saying, "Woe, woe, the great city, the strong city, Babylon! In a single hour your judgment has come." And merchants of the earth will weep and grieve over her because no one buys their cargo, goods, merchandise anymore. Cargoes of gold and silver and precious stones and pearls and fine linen and purple and silk and scarlet. All kinds of citron, scented wood, and every article of ivory, and every article of very costly and lavish wood, and bronze, and iron, and marble, and cinnamon, and spices, and incense, and perfume, and frankincense, and wine, and olive oil, and fine flour, and wheat, of cattle, and sheep, and cargoes of horses, and chariots, and carriages, and of slaves, and human lives. The ripe fruits and delicacies of your soul's desire have gone from you, and all things that were luxurious and extravagant are lost to you, never again to be found. The merchants who handled these articles, who grew wealthy from their business with her, will stand a long way off in fear of her torment, weeping and mourning aloud, saying, "Woe! Woe for the great city that was robed in fine linen, in purple and scarlet, gilded and adorned with gold, with precious stones and with pearls, because in 1 hour all the vast wealth has been laid waste." And every ship captain or navigator, and every passenger and sailor, and all who make their living by the sea stood a long way off, and exclaimed as they watched the smoke of her burning, saying, "What could be compared to the great city?" And they threw dust on their heads and were crying out, weeping and mourning, saying, "Woe! Woe for the great city where all who had ships at sea grew rich from her great wealth, because in 1 hour she has been laid waste." Revelation 18:9-19. The people who cried over Babylon had enjoyed her pleasures and made money from her trade. They had praised the world's kings, leading them into idol worship, which let those kings mistreat their people while still following Babylon. Now, the merchants who sold her luxuries, forgave her sins, and gave her honors are sad. Babylon's friends joined in her sinful ways and profits, but didn't want to face her troubles. The spirit of the Antichrist is all about worldly things, and the sadness is just about losing these worldly comforts. People don't grieve over God's anger, but over their lost luxuries. The wealth and splendor of the ungodly won't help them, and will only worsen their punishment. Here, the focus is on how not just enslaved people, but also people's souls are treated as goods, leading to the loss of millions of souls. Wealthy traders should learn that gaining Christ's hidden riches is far better. Otherwise, they might end up sad because their wealth will eventually disappear and everything they want will be gone. When they die, their riches won't help them. They'll face not just a coffin and decay, but also an unquenchable fire. What brings joy to God's servants on earth also brings joy to the angels in heaven. The apostles will rejoice in the fall of Babylon. The fall of Babylon was a result of God's justice. And because it was a final ruin, this enemy will never trouble them again, as a sign assured them. Let's learn from the mistakes that led others to destruction and focus on heavenly things, considering the changing nature of earthly things. Is United States really Babylon? Will angels celebrate the downfall of this once great nation? Does the characteristics of Babylon truly match that of America? Whether the U.S. is like Babylon or not, it will be one of the all nations that God will judge. For the Lord is angry at all the nations, and his wrath is against all their armies. He has utterly doomed them. He has given them over to slaughter, so their slain will be thrown out, and the stench of their corpses will rise, and the mountains will flow with their blood. Isaiah 34. The United States will be one of all nations that come to Zion to worship the true King. Now, it will come to pass that in the last days, the mountain of the house of the Lord will be firmly established as the highest of the mountains, and will be exalted above the hills, and all the nations will stream to it. Isaiah 2. Babylon the Great is shown as the biggest player in the world at the end times. This is obvious due to the amount of times that it is mentioned in this prophetic book. Because of this, it should be clear for anyone living in the last days to know who Babylon the Great is. But right now, people who believe in different end times theories are split on understanding these chapters. Let's look at Revelation 17 and 18 together. These chapters are talking about the same thing, which is a political power. In Revelation 17:18, it clearly says that the prostitute is the big city mentioned in Revelation 18. This city isn't just about religion, it's a political power. Babylon the Great is like a superpower that controls politics, money, and culture in the end times. So, which country today do you think controls politics, money, and culture the most? It can be obvious why many can see the West as being Babylon. However, some people also believe that Babylon exists somewhere, such as the Middle East. A look at Revelation 17 tells us that Babylon the Great is the biggest power in the world during the end times. Here's what we learn from this part of the book of Revelation. First, Babylon the Great has the biggest economy of any place in the world. It's where the most money is made and controls global wealth during the end times. Second, Babylon the Great influences world culture in a way that goes against Christian values. Third, Babylon the Great will have the most political power of any group in the end times. Fourth, Babylon the Great is thought to have the strongest military in the end times. These traits clearly and uniquely describe the United States of America or similar great nations. These things can only happen once, and the United States is doing them right now. No other country in history has ever controlled all the different countries like this. The United States is in a unique position where it has more power sources than anyone else in the world. This started after World War II and became even stronger after the Cold War ended. In the book of Revelation, Babylon the Great is shown as the most potent force in the end times. It's so powerful that it influences the world's culture and economy. This kind of power has only ever been seen once in history, and it is clear that the United States has this power. Although some parts of the prophecy are still to come true, especially the parts about Babylon the Great trying to kill Christians around the world, there are enough details that match up now to be sure the rest will happen too. Mystery. Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots. This title does not refer to the physical city of Babylon, but rather to the spiritual representation of Babylon, which is the origin of all forms of spiritual adultery and idolatry. This harlot must encompass more territory than a single department of a religious organization. What if I told you the very thing people are looking for is the trap? Could an ancient city from the Bible still be influencing our world today? Could the spirit of Babylon, the city of power, wealth, and deception, be alive and well in our governments, economies, and even our culture? Revelation 17 describes Babylon as the great prostitute who sits on. The Bible points to three major areas where Babylon has control: government, the seat of power; economy, the heart of greed; culture, the mind of deception. Babylon was a political powerhouse, ruling nations with absolute control. And today, we see the same patterns. Governments around the world are forming alliances, consolidating power, and shaping policies that control people's freedoms. Revelation 18 describes Babylon as an economic giant, controlling trade and finance. And here's where things get even more concerning. The Bible describes an economic system that will control the world. What we're seeing today? It's the foundation of that system. Most people won't even question it. They'll welcome it with open arms. And that's the scariest part. The Bible says, "The merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." Revelation 18, verse 3. Does this sound familiar? Today, entire nations are controlled by debt. The rich keep getting richer, and everything we buy, from our food to our homes, is tied to a global system of trade. But here's the real danger. This economic system isn't just about wealth. It's about control. Digital currencies, centralized banking, and a cashless society are paving the way for the mark of the beast. It's all happening faster than anyone expected, and soon, no one will be able to stop it. The question is, when Babylon's economy fully takes over, will we be ready? Now, here's where it gets personal. Babylon's greatest tool isn't politics or money, it's culture. We've talked about government and economy. But what about the most subtle yet powerful tool of deception, culture? And this is where the trap is being set. She looks beautiful, attractive, alluring, but inside, she is full of corruption. And today, we see this everywhere. Entertainment, social media, Hollywood. The world is obsessed with pleasure, greed, and self-worship. But don't be fooled. What looks glamorous on the outside is leading millions away from God. She is the personification of Satan's very own movement, which might be described as the religion of the global order. Our world is ready to be seduced by the harlot because it is built on the strong notion that it doesn't matter what you believe as long as you believe in something. We read, "Drunk with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Jesus." Who exactly has persecuted believers throughout history, and who is still doing it now? If you think this deception will be harmless, think again. History shows us what happens when Babylon rises, and soon we'll see it happen again. The woman not only persecutes, but she also takes pleasure in the fact that she is persecuting the godly, much like a drunk person takes pleasure in alcohol. It is imperative that we do not lose sight of the fact that some of the most heinous atrocities committed against genuine Christians have been committed in the name of the church. Between the years 1555 and 1558, under the reign of the Queen Mary, also known as Bloody Mary, England saw the execution of around 288 Christians who took a stand for the truth of the Christian religion by having them burned at the stake. The beast, also known as the Antichrist, can be identified without a doubt as the eighth king, in the sense that he has qualities with all of the prior world empires. He is one of the seven, but his demise is already predetermined. The word perdition literally translates to destruction, and that is exactly what will happen to the beast. Revelation 17:12-15. The 10 horns which you saw are 10 kings who have received no kingdom as yet, but they receive authority for 1 hour as kings with the beast. These are of one mind, and they will give their power and authority to the beast. These will make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb will overcome them, for he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and those who are with him are called, chosen, and faithful. Then he said to me, "The waters which you saw, where the harlot sits, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues." Revelation 17:12 says the 10 horns are 10 kings. This is likely referring to a 10-nation confederation. Who are these 10 kings? And have they already begun to rise? Regardless of their specific identity, their actions are obvious. This mysterious figure rules over all the people, crowds, nations, and languages in the world. This shows that the impact of the harlot can be felt worldwide as a result of her connection with the beast. This will truly be a one-world religion. The significance of the harlot revolves around her relationship with the beast, specifically how she is deeply intertwined with the beast and the government he leads. The great harlot is being judged. The allies of the Antichrist turn against the strange woman. But why would they betray her, and what happens next? Once it begins, there will be no turning back, and that moment is coming faster than most people think. In just a few moments, I'll show you how close we are to the tipping point. Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. And the 10 horns which you saw, and the beast, these will hate the prostitute, and will make her desolate and naked, stripped of her power and influence, and will eat her flesh, and completely consume her with fire. We read, these will hate the harlot, make her desolate and naked, eat her flesh, and burn her with fire. What event will trigger this violent downfall? And why does it happen so suddenly? In the end, the Antichrist will not tolerate any form of worship other than that of himself. The son of destruction exalts himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, to the point that he sits in the temple of God, demonstrating to himself that he is God. Revelation 17, verse 17. For God has put it into their hearts to fulfill his purpose, to be of one mind, and to give their kingdom to the beast until the words of God are fulfilled. We read, God has put it into their hearts. The judgment that was sent against religious Babylon was ordered by God. Sometimes God will use one wicked group, in this case the 10 kings, as an instrument of his judgment against another wicked group, in this case religious Babylon. This happens rather frequently in the Bible. God will ordain the political support that these 10 rulers would provide for the Antichrist. The world will get exactly what it asks for, which is godless religion and godless government. The world has been prepared for this moment. The only question is, are you? Are we seeing the foundations of this global deception being laid right now? And the woman whom you saw is that great city which reigns over the kings of the earth. Revelation 17, verse 18. But Babylon, in the sense of the global order, has always been that great metropolis that rules over the rulers of the globe. This has been the case since the beginning of time. For Christians, the question that needs to be asked is, does it reign over me? Or am I a resident of a greater city? But Babylon is doomed. She and they will fall. Their days will be numbered. The final warning has been given, but here's the terrifying part. It won't come the way people expect. In just a moment, I'll show you the chilling reality behind this deception. The incredible manner in which Babylon's downfall is accomplished is absolutely plausible in today's environment. Ambitious politicians, hungry for power, resent this financial clout. They are even prepared to bring about economic disaster if that will enable them to take over. The kings will be jealous of the woman who rides them and will resolve to destroy her. The city will be engulfed in flames. What is the connection between God's people and this final Babylon? There are 3 rules to follow. First, there will be many martyrs in the city. Will persecution of Christians increase before Babylon's fall? Many will fall for it, even those who never thought they would. The whore is drunk with the blood of the saints, the blood of those who bore testimony to Jesus. This last phrase again indicates the presence of Christians and occurs throughout Revelation. In a city devoted to immorality, pious people have no place. A conscience is something that the community does not desire. Second, Christians are instructed to come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, so that you will not receive any of her plagues. For her sins are piled up to heaven, and God has remembered her crimes. Revelation 18, 4-5. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, lest you share in her sins, and lest you receive of her plagues. For her sins have reached to heaven, and God has remembered her iniquities. This emerging religion appeals to those who are seeking a more universal and unified spiritual path. It emphasizes the commonalities among different faiths and promotes the idea of a global religion that can bring people together. However, this approach also raises concerns about the dilution of traditional religious values and the potential for spiritual confusion. The Bible warns against the dangers of spiritual infidelity and corruption. Could we already be seeing the spread of this deception today? The description of the Babylon serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of straying from true worship. In the book of Revelation, Babylon represents a society that has turned away from. This verse reveals the widespread influence of false religion and its impact on nations and societies. This Babylon is a representation of how idolatry and immorality can permeate every aspect of life, leading to spiritual and moral decay. As believers, we are called to discernment and devotion, staying true to the teachings of the Bible and resisting the allure of false religions. The Bible warns about a great deception in the final days. What if I told you it's already begun? Why these warnings matter today. The prophecies and warnings found in the Bible are not just historical or theoretical concerns, they are highly relevant to the spiritual challenges we face today. The rise of the emerging religion, with its focus on relativism, personal experiences, and syncretism, embodies the very issues the Bible warns against. By understanding these prophecies and heeding the biblical warnings, we can better guard against the spiritual deception that threatens to lead believers away from the truth. In light of these warnings, it is crucial for believers to remain faithful to sound doctrine and the teachings of the Bible. The Apostle Paul, in his letters, repeatedly emphasizes the importance of holding fast to the truth and not being swayed by false teachings. If anyone teaches a different doctrine and does not agree with the sound words of our Lord Jesus Christ and with the doctrine and teaching which is in agreement with godliness, personal integrity, upright behavior, he is conceited and woefully ignorant, understanding nothing. He has a morbid interest in controversial questions and disputes about words, which result in envy, quarrels, verbal abuse, evil suspicions, and perpetual friction between men who are corrupted in mind and deprived of the truth, who think that godliness is a source of profit, a lucrative, money-making business. Withdraw from them. 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 3 to 5. This passage emphasizes the necessity of adhering to the teachings of Jesus Christ and avoiding those who promote different doctrines for selfish or misguided reasons. It calls for a commitment to personal integrity and upright behavior grounded in the sound words of the Lord. The biblical prophecies about the rise of false religions and the fall of corrupt systems like Babylon serve as powerful reminders of the spiritual challenges we face. The emerging religion, with its emphasis on relativism, personal spiritual experiences, and syncretism, can be seen as fulfilling these prophecies. It represents a significant departure from sound doctrine, promoting teachings that cater to personal desires rather than the truth of God's Word. The warnings from prophets like Jeremiah and Peter highlight the dangers of following false teachings and emphasize the need for vigilance and reliance to true biblical teachings. As believers, it is essential to remain grounded in the Bible, discerning the truth from falsehood and holding fast to the sound doctrine that leads to godliness and spiritual integrity. By understanding and applying these prophecies and warnings, we can navigate the complex spiritual landscape of today, staying true to our faith and avoiding the pitfalls of false religions. It is important to be vigilant, discerning, and steadfast in our commitment to the truth of God's Word, ensuring that we remain faithful to the teachings of Jesus Christ amidst the rise of deceptive and harmful doctrines.
Many seem to be confused because they do not understand the book of Revelation. However, what if there was an animation showing the entire book? Well, we created that. And to watch that, click here.